And now finally we get to putting on the head. And here are some of the supplies you will need. I don't use a paperclip wire because it's a little too stiff. It doesn't easily bend. So what I do use is jewelry wire. And this is a Darice 20 gauge silver jewelry wire. It's a copper coated wire, but it serves the purpose as well, and it's much easier. You can bend it easily with your hand, whereas a paperclip wire you would probably have to use pliers. So like I said, this is a 20 gauge, and I also have these. I will try and put a link for this, but these are so old I don't know where they're available, but you know, research small, like 0.95, less than a millimeter, and up to 2 millimeter drill bits. So the wire, this wire is approximately 1 millimeter, a little bit smaller than 1 millimeter. So this is the drill bit I will use. And you'll need one of those rounded jewelry maker pliers, a small needle nose plier, and flush cut. I have flush cut wire, so this you can get very close. You won't have a little piece sticking out when you use a regular cutters. This cuts very, very flush and close to what you want to get to. And finally, again, this is something I've had for almost 40 years. It's a Fordham flexible arm drill. This is attached to a motor up in my closet, and you can, you know, it comes with a chuck key that you can put any size drill bit in here. If you can't get something, it's rather expensive, so if you can't get something like that, and you do have a Dremel, the Dremel offers a flexible arm attachment as well. The only thing that I don't like about this is that you have, it's a variable speed on the drill body, but it goes like, you know, you have to set it, and then that's what it stays at. Whereas the Fordham comes with a foot pedal, so you have really a lot of control. But like I said, this is very expensive. This is a lot cheaper if you already have a Dremel, and you can get Dremels for a reasonable price. But these are what I use now to put the head on. I also want to add that if you can't afford either of these options, there are things called mini drills, and I'm showing you a picture of one that's available on Amazon. I have the link for it in the description. That's a very inexpensive option for you, and you can do it by hand. It's going to take a little longer, but no big deal. You can do it by hand. So those are the three. You know, you have an expensive Fordham, you have a mid-range Dremel, and the flexible arm, if you already have a Dremel, is inexpensive. And then the most inexpensive is a mini hand drill. And like I said, if you're not going to do a lot of these, or this is just something you want to try once, then I would go with the mini hand drill rather than invest money in a Dremel and a Fordham or anything like that. And I can add that this drill bit kit comes with the drill bits that you'll need, anywhere from under 1 millimeter to 2 millimeters in width. So I think it's a good deal, and it's something good to have around if you're a crafter. Just a little added note, whenever you're doing these kind of things and using equipment like this, or make sure you wear safety equipment. Use safety glasses, especially when you're using these cutters. You don't want little flecks of metal going off and getting in your eye, because your eyes are your most important assets in art. Again, I have to do this off camera because the angle of the drill and the length of the flexible arm that I have just doesn't allow me to do it on camera easily. So what I'm going to, like I said, I'm going to take this Fordham, and I can't even get this vertical, and go this way and that way, this way and that way in those two holes very carefully, and then I will be back. So I was able to move things around so I could drill on camera. So this is exactly what I'm doing on those two marks. Drilling straight through, trying to keep it as vertical as I can. Pardon my head. And that's one. Okay, so now that we have the 2 holes drilled, we're going to take this length of Verice wire and kind of make it into a squared off U shape. That's approximately the width of your 2 holes. Approximately, it doesn't have to be exact. Just to get it started. What I'm going to do then is slip the spring on here because this is going to be permanently attached. And now I'm going to get these 2 ends for goodness sake. See, now the 2 ends are through the 2 holes. Can you see that? Okay. And now I'm going to take the plier and pull these out past the neck like that. And then I'm going to start working them down because I want that top of that wire to be kind of flush with the neck button. So I'm pulling it down, pulling it down. At this point, you have to be very careful when you're working with the neck bob that you don't crack anything. Okay, so now it's pretty well into the top tightly. Now what I'm going to do, bend these out. I'm going to cut away some of that excess. And what I'm going to do with the jewelry pliers now is I'm going to roll the ends approximately back, like this, kind of back on themselves, all right? So, like I said, I'm going to try and do that now. Get it under that button, and then take your plier. See how it's under the button now? Take your plier and get it flat as you can to the button without letting it stick out beyond the button. But you want to get it flat, and the reason you want to get it flat is because as this thing turns and all, you don't want it interfering with the neck. See, now it's sideways and it's more or less flat. Same thing with the other side. Okay, so now the spring is permanently attached to the neck bob. The next thing, we'll continue in a second. So the next step is to get a length of either, this is a very heavy upholstery thread, dental floss works good for this too, and thread it through the other loop on the spring. Okay, what I do is bring the 2 ends together, and now what I'm going to do is take Mr. Mercury's head and put this through and out the top of the head, like so. Now this is tricky. Usually need like another pair of hands to do this, but I'm going to try and do it on camera. Pull this taut until you see the spring coming up, and then get that through there, like so. You see, that went right in. Remove your thread, and his head is now attached. And it moves and can be posed. So there you have it. That's how I attach sculpted heads to Tana bodies. Hope that helped. And like I said, I hope this was maybe an inspiration for how you could do it. It doesn't necessarily mean the way I'm doing it is right. It's just a way I came up with, and it works for me. Hope I gave you inspiration so that you can come up with something that works for you. Thank you.